Oh, there he is. So Carlos, take it away, bruh.
Good evening, everybody. It's great to have you all here tonight. Um, for the gifts, this is my second time hosting, so hang out with me. I'd like to welcome our guest, Kristin Collins Jackson. Kristin is an associate creative director at Tinder. Mo Ensemble. Mo is the creative director at Facebook. Jack Luo Kerensky. Sorry, Jack, that I'm screwing that up, but
Go ahead, buddy.
Associate Director at R West, and Lisa Kai. She's a motion graphic designer at Tinder as well. I know all these guys. I hung out with Mo last season when he did a talk here. Kristin and Lisa, we've been hanging out recently. We have something coming up for you tomorrow night. And Jack's just family, like Kenny said, and he took an amazing photo of all of us early on in our growth. So let me move on to the questions at hand for tonight. I'd like to have all of you tell us a little bit about yourself. If we can start off with Kristin, can you please?
Hi, sure. So, Carlos, where should I start?
You can start with how did you get involved in getting into the field? What made you, become a creative, as to say?
I hung out with a lot of creatives, and I didn't think of myself as particularly creative at any point in my life. I knew I wanted to be a writer, but I didn't exactly know how to do that. I found myself with an English major, and my parents were like, "What are you gonna do with that?" I didn't really have an answer for them. So I went into advertising and ended up at a small branding firm outside of Boston. And I was really lucky to get with a company in some ways that was going under, because it allowed me to wear a bunch of different hats. It allowed me to see the creative side, manage creative contractors, do a little bit of resource management, get a taste of the side that I learned I really wanted to be a part of. So I found myself in a recession and kind of on the outs of advertising, and got into just doing editorial work and continuing my pursuit of writing. So I worked for Bustle, and I was one of the first Black staff writers at Bustle, which was at the time the largest millennial publication for women and for millennial women, and started getting my beat on culture, sex and relationships and beauty, and really enjoying it. But there wasn't the teamwork that I was used to in advertising, or that collaboration as a creative that I felt I needed. So when I stepped into agency world, I started freelancing for agencies and getting a taste of what it would be like to be outside of my mind and collaborate with other creatives, designers, different people from different backgrounds and different ways of thinking. I realized I worked smarter. I worked faster. I was more efficient. And I was really craving that camaraderie, which does not exist in editorial. It's every person for themselves. So when I got the job at Tinder, I was really looking for a place where I didn't have to code switch, because I had been on my own for 5 years. And I was older than a lot of people in editorial work. So I felt like I would have a 25-year-old come up to me and correct me and tell me I was a woman of color. And I'd be like, "No, I'm a Black woman, thank you. I will address myself how I address myself." And I think it gave me, it meant that I had a lower threshold for BS. And I was very certain that the next place I ended up full-time was going to be a place I was going to stay a while that allowed me to be my authentic self. And Tinder's allowed me to do that. I think as a creative, I have certainly struggled in areas with giving and getting feedback and running into instances where I try so hard to not come off angry or over opinionated that I overcompensate. And I look and I think and I hear myself talk and I'm like, who was that? You know, so I think I'm still finding my footing as a creative, but I think that I'm surrounded by people that are putting in the work. You know?
Thank you for sharing that. I love what you said about working smarter and faster, and that to be a note that I hope our guests would take down. Jack, I would like to ask you to tell us a bit about yourself.
Everybody's refined, everybody's buying, everybody wants
yeah, actually, you know, I'll hand it to Lisa.
I'm sorry, Jack.
It's like,
And if everybody can, if everyone can mute, that'd be great. I'd love that. Jack, I'm sorry about that, man.
No worries at all. I'm actually gonna hand it to Lisa first, after you, please.
Okay.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Lisa Kai. I'm currently a motion graphics designer at Tinder. So I work on the same team as Kristin. And I've been there for a little over 3 years now. And Kristin's amazing to work with. And over the past 3 years, I just feel like as a team and as people, I can just see so much growth between just even the two of us. It's really cool. But a little bit of background about myself. How I got into doing like creative work was, quite honestly, when I was younger, I just loved to draw, and, you know, kind of typical Asian parents / all parents, they were kind of like, you know, you can't really make a living off art. So they kind of were pushing me towards like, you know, what's something that you can do that like utilizes your creativity, but will make you money. So, you know, it sounds kind of harsh, but it is true. And that's not to say I don't like design. I actually love design. But because of that, I knew from a very, very early age, like, I want to be a graphic designer. That's exactly what I want to do. And like, I literally applied to like only one college, the college I wanted to go to, and ended up going there. And while there, I was studying under graphic communication. But while I was studying that, we kind of got to learn a little bit about print, UI, UX design, and motion design, and we're able to choose like which track we wanted to go down during our program, which was 5 years long. It had like 5 different co-ops built into it. So it was a pretty intense program, but it was a great learning experience. But during my time, I had never done motion design ever. I really was just like, oh, that software looks so confusing. I like don't think that's for me. But after I took my first class, I ended up falling in love with it. And I decided to just kind of keep seeing where my motion graphic studies could lead me, and led me right to LA. So I have no regrets, and started out my official career in LA from an internship I had at an entertainment agency. So that brought me from where I was previously living in Ohio to LA. And from there, just had a exponential growth with the agency life, as I'm sure many of you know, and what Kristin touched on, just, you know, very high-paced, sink or swim type ordeal, which was, you know, very, very intense, but I am grateful for the experience. But from there, I ended up going to Tinder, and just it's been a great experience, kind of like touching all these different aspects of motion design. Like I said, my first job was at an entertainment agency. So it was a lot different work than what I'm doing at Tinder currently, where, you know, we are, our team like touched a lot on marketing, and now is like touching a little bit more on like product. But it's been really cool. I've been able to touch a lot of different areas of motion design, which I'm really grateful for. So I haven't been like put into one hole, but yeah, that's a little spiel about me. Great to be here, and thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you. And it's great having you here. Okay, Jack.
Hey everyone, hi to everyone that I know and a big hello to everyone that I don't. How y'all doing? I am an ACD at a small agency called R West. They're in Portland, Oregon, and they're trying to expand in New York. And so I've been kind of brought on to help with that. And I got into advertising. To be honest, I fell into advertising. I was a musician. I had a recording studio. I was doing a lot of producing, and I was not very successful. So I was moonlighting on like graphic design and photography, and was just freelancing for years. Like whenever I could just get some money, I would just be doing it. I once designed a book in Photoshop, which I do not recommend, but just tells you like my skill level at the time. I was doing like websites for family, friends, and everything. And then progressively that kind of built. And then I ended up getting a contract at J. Walter Thompson after a couple kind of small gigs, like 6-month gigs. And I was there for 2 weeks on a contract, and I never left for 4 years. And I think that was just testament to like putting my hand up for absolutely everything. And there I went through like the hardcore old school advertising. Your boss tells you your work is shit and he doesn't tell you how to fix it, and you have to stay till 3 a.m. And then I also had like the really, really generous, kind, caring, no ego, creative mentors, which of course I'm trying to be more like, because that old method I think is dead and gone. Glad to see it. And then so I was just kind of working as like a go-to guy on every account, well, most accounts, and then progressively made my way onto Rolex, where I spent about 2.5, 3 years as a senior art director. And that was great and amazing, and then awful. I left there in the middle of the global pandemic, and my grandma was like, "But what about Roger Federer?" And I was like, "Fuck that guy, man." I was just totally burnt out. It was like November, and we were working like 16-hour days, 7 days a week, and it just kind of reached this like maximum point. I was like, you know what, I'm done. Spent some time being jobless, which sucked in the middle of the pandemic, and then ended up at the small agency, R West, which has been an adjustment period for sure. But enjoying it. It's a new challenge. I've gone from kind of unlimited budgets to can you do everything, and I kind of enjoy it. It's just it is an adjustment. So here I am.
Cool. Thanks for sharing that. Mo.
Nice, cool. I'll try to keep mine as short and sweet because I normally tend to ramble, but I'm working on it. Cool. So my name is Mo. I was born in Nigeria, but grew up in Texas. That's why you don't hear the accent. How did I get into advertising? So I got to be honest. I basically got into advertising by watching way too much 90s and 2000s television. I barely know how to draw. I got a pirated Photoshop, so I don't come from a fancy college or nothing. I was just a really strange child, and I would consume all of those things. So yeah, of course, I believe I heard someone say this earlier. Just like all Nigerian parents, you're either a doctor or a loser. So I guess that's what made me by default. So I wanted to prove them wrong, but also knew who I was. So yeah, I did. I went to Miami Ad School, took out a whole bunch of money. So it was like make it in the industry or bust. And I finally got into an internship, and the internship was not hiring at the moment, but it was like the Nigerian version of Pursuit of Happiness. Like I had to make it happen. So and I'll also touch upon this a little bit when we're talking, is there's a different way to be an intern, because some people feel that they see all these heroes, they see us come up here and they think that, oh, that's just the next step, and oh, you have to do this, but you have to work very, very hard. And even when I was an intern, I was treating myself like a senior art director, not just solving problems, but creating problems for the company to solve. So by the time it was over, they were like, oh yeah, we're gonna put you on this project next week. And I'm like, hey, I'm not even getting paid right now. And they're like, what? That was back in the day. I think now they have to pay you. They're like, are you kidding me? Like, you're not you're not an employee here? And I was like, no. And they're like, now you are. So yeah, that was 9 years ago. And then I'm right here in front of you guys. Time goes by really fast. and I always promised I would pay it forward. So I'm looking forward to answering all of the questions, even the uncomfortable ones.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment, and thank you for paying it forward. My next question, because I'm gonna kind of keep it moving along. My next question is, what is the most purposeful campaign that you've had the opportunity to work on? And for that question, I would like to start with Lisa, because I wanted to hear you being a motion graphic designer. So, you know, how did you apply your motion, maybe your motion graphics to it, or you know, whatever you have. Maybe it wasn't motion graphics.
For sure. There was, I believe it was 2019, our team did a Right to Love campaign, and to help pass the Equality Act. And yeah, Kristin was also a part of it. Maybe this is your most purposeful project as well. But it was just a really, really amazing campaign with like a lot of heart and social good behind it. And we ended up executing this like really fun idea where we pretty much just had a giant slide in the Flatiron, is it Flatiron Square in New York City? Sorry, I'm not from New York, but yeah, it was a really public giant pride slide, and every time someone slid down the slide, we donated $5 to help pass the Equality Act, and just trying to get different folks that were walking past educated and involved. And it was just really, really cool to concept on. Our whole team really just came together to bring it to life. And I did do some motion graphics for it just to help promote it through social, but it was really just like a really cool project. Our whole team, like we sat down and thought about it together to just birth the idea. So it was really fruitful.
Do you have the same feeling about that campaign, Kristin?
I do. I was doing the copywriting for the campaign and the script for the video. So Lisa and I collaborated on it, but I think my favorite would have to be our Black Love Is campaign, which we did for right before the pandemic. So it was our last shoot that we did, but we partnered with Director X, and we worked with about 10 different folks of African descent who, from all different backgrounds. We had someone who was AFAB, non-binary. We had a queer couple. We had people who were from the West Indies. We had Black Americans. And all of them had one thing in common, and it was this impact of what Black love had on them and their perception of love. And tying that back into Tinder and our narrative was really interesting, because I think Black love is so celebrated, and it was something that, it was a market that wasn't tapped into yet. No other dating app was talking about Black love. And it really resonated with the community. We had a nice little party. Director X was awesome. And yeah, I think that one might be my favorite.
For the gifts, I can't type very fast. So when Kristin says Director X, Google it, check it out. Check out his work, check out his progression when you're doing your research on what you want to ideate. Okay, Mo, can you give us a story?
Yeah, sure. First off, Director X, that's pretty
Yes.
Cool. Favorite project. Okay, I'll tell you the favorite project, and it kind of goes with a little bit of a story. It has to be the recent one that I just did, actually coming out of everything that happened with George Floyd. The project is called Link It Black. And what it was is it came out of everyone posting the Black Square and being like, hey, you know, we're activists now. And, you know, all of us creatives getting together and seeing how we can all talk the talk and walk the walk. And it was also a Michael Jackson Man in the Mirror moment, because every time problems like this happen, I do create things that are very addy. This is a hashtag flex and an unflex. Like the last project I worked on at JWT with Kenny and them won like 9 lions. And I'm like, yo, okay, what's next? 18 lions. That's what we need. But I'm like, no, like you're part of the problem. Like this industry can be like a huge circle jerk. So I promised myself what this project was going to be was would have action oriented at its core. And that's exactly what it was. You guys check it out when you get a chance. I know someone can send a link. It's called Link It Black, where we all can use our platform as a billboard for change. And so when you go to your portfolio, it's a billboard on your portfolio just saying, hey, thank you for checking out my website, but check out these other talents because our industry is out of balance. So we created a video to have people take the project and make it their own. So if you haven't heard of it, maybe you have heard of it, but check it out. It's called Link It Black. And yeah, the reason why I love it so much is it was really, really embraced by a lot of creatives. And there was a time and I'm like, oh, I bet you I can get another run in Cannes. But I was like, you know what? For this one here, it's really, really about the people, for people to be a billboard for change. And that's just that. Like I went hipster project on this one. So I'm super proud of it. Check it out when you get a chance and opt in and make it your own if you want.
Great. Thank you, Gary and Rebecca, for hooking up those links. Jack, can you share a story with us, please?
Yeah, shout out Mo. That was a really, really great campaign and at a really great moment. The most purposeful campaign that I have worked on or that I'm working on is something that I've been working on for a couple of years. We originally pitched it to Getty. It was called the Unconscious Bias Switch. And basically it was aimed at art directors who, you know, as an art director, when you're doing something as simple as stock image selection, you actually define an entire ad for the entire process. So you may just think like, hey, I'm just looking for a family. But if you comp them into an ad, generally the client will like latch on to that casting that you've already done, and now you're set throughout. And as I'm sure you all know, like if you search family, Getty is actually better, and I'll explain why they didn't go for it. But if you search something like family in Shutterstock, it just comes up with like 4 pages of white families. And so we wanted to create this campaign where it was basically like the unconscious bias switch, and it was always switched on. So it made you actively have to turn it off. And that was the whole concept, was basically just like creating something that mixed up all those results and had something that was far more diverse than, say, the first page of Shutterstock. And unfortunately, Getty didn't go for it. It kind of died down for a little while, and I'm trying to bring it back. So anyone wants to partner on that, you know, let me know, because I think it's really cool. And Shutterstock sucks. Their search results are terrible. And Adobe Stock as well is another one that, like, it's shocking if you just search like family or home or, you know, some of the basic things that you just search. And it was really aimed at, like, you know, some art director in the middle of nowhere who's just like blah 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 and has that kind of thing that just happens automatically. So yeah, that's the one me.
Cool. Thank you for sharing that. I wanted to get to a question that because we're here with the gifts, we're at a point in this campaign where this question really comes handy. And that question is, what is the first thing you do after you receive the brief from your strategy team? And I'll shoot that over to Kristin.
The first thing I do when I see a brief is I try to find any loophole to buy me more time, because I feel like it's usually an unrealistic amount of time that I'm being asked to come up with something. So after I'm done that, I usually separate with my designer or copywriter, or director, and start thinking on my own with thought starters. Usually I'll spend a few hours on thought starters, just thinking of anything, doing research, creeping on other brands and in Instagram. You'd be surprised how inspiring Twitter and Reddit can be. So I'll do that, and then I'll get with my co-lead, and from there, we'll sort of join forces and see where we land. And usually some of the worst ideas we've had have come out of, we've had like the best ideas come out of just some really dysfunctional ideas. So it can be a really fun process. It can be a slow process. I'm definitely somebody who likes to execute more than I like to think. And I had a creative director who used to manage me, who told me one week she took all my work from me and she told me that she just wanted me to think for the week. Just think about this one campaign. And yeah, I mean, I was fucking miserable. I was like, this shit, I don't want to be thinking about it. Like, think? What's to think about? I was in my thoughts. I had all these feelings. And then I got to a point where some of my thoughts were actually thinking about the big picture and thinking about my audience and less about execution. So it definitely helped me in my approach to creative work, for sure.
Cool. Dak, what about you? What is some of the first thing that you do after you've received the brief?
Something that I think took a long time to get used to is question absolutely everything. And I think as a junior designer, I was always like so scared to be the squeaky wheel. So I'd just be like, grab the brief and be like, oh, okay, I'll go do it. And then you get like halfway down the track and you find all these holes in the brief and none of it really made that much sense. And you didn't have specs and now you're designing something you don't know. And so that's like, as you kind of move up, you realize your role is to really sit and poke holes in this brief and ask those questions. And I think learning that was a really big one. Like, you're not being annoying, you're just doing your job. And the reality is, like, so coming from like something like Rolex, where like everything was handed on, like, here's your brief and here's anything you could ever need. And then coming to a place with like our West, and they're like, you know, can you do a banner? I'm like, sure. Where? For what? What is it? What's the subject? What's the size? How big is it? Like, what fonts? What brand? Like, you have to ask all those questions, because otherwise you're just staring at a blank page and the brief is useless. So that's really like, and of course, like, be nice about it, because this person has really tried to make this brief, but really like sit with them and just go through until it makes sense to you, because a lot of the time it doesn't.
Mo?
Right on. I take the brief, I wad it up, I throw it in their face and say, I see holes in this brief. I've imagined that a few times, but never done it. So first thing I do, and once again, take all this with a grain of salt, it's just my weird way of going about it. To me, briefs are creative opportunities. So I selfishly look for those, and it's beautiful because they're creative opportunities within constraints, which is super great and super awesome. If you don't see that creative opportunities, all you young folks getting in, go back and question it. You've heard that a few times. If you don't see the opportunity in there, then it's probably BS. And then after that, honestly, is you start failing forward. We really give failure a bad rep. Like, you always see these people, like, you know, post under LinkedIn, like, yeah, we just got 5-6 lions. Like, start failing and start getting some ideas there, and you'll see as you put them out on paper, they'll fix themselves. And I'm sure everyone can attest here. All this stuff that you're seeing, the Lincoln Black that I'm sending, you know, Jack's work, there are at least 200, 300 bad other ones. So I just do all that and just start failing forward.
Cool, thank you. Hey, Lisa, I'm gonna switch it up on you. I would like to hear, how do you build a good relationship between yourself and your strategy team?
I think, to be completely honest, I don't like have a super strong relationship with the strategist team. So maybe I'm not the best person to answer this. And it's not that like we don't get along. It's just I don't have that much contact with them.
So with Kristin, you're on that. You're on that.
Oh, so how do we work with the? It's interesting because I think the way we function is that I work really closely with our product team. So a lot of times I'm collaborating on that strategy with our product designers and product managers and UX researchers. So that strategy is full on fair game, and it's kind of whoever can get to it first, it feels. There's not a lot of top down, which I really like. And I see them seeing that, and I wonder how long they're going to let us ride this out for. But so far, it makes for really great collaborating. I think that one of the things that is helpful for me is that I let data influence my copy. And that's just because I have had people just look at a word and choose it and say, why'd you choose this word? And I had to have an answer. And I was like, well, sir, it's a synonym of another word that we've used in the past, but I had to have an answer for everything. So for me, working with strategists is really helpful because it only influences my copy and leads to stronger results, because that's also what I'm looking for as well. And that's the thing, is like, we forget that our creatives and our strategists all have the same goal, and that's getting good results and impressions.
Cool. Jack, may I have a response on that from you?
Sure. I don't really have a strategy team now. We have just kind of a brand manager, and I deal more directly just with the client now, which is its own challenge. But in my previous role, we had a strategy team who were very frustrating in that it kind of felt like they didn't understand a lot of the brand, or at least the ins and outs of like the day in, day out details of the brand. So you had these kind of detached strategy things. And so that was pretty challenging, but I think, everyone is human and everyone is just trying to, as Kristin said, like, we're just all trying to meet the same goal. We want to create something good. So, just imagine that it's like, that's their work. They've gone and put this together and they're handing it to you. And if you just scrunch it up and throw it in their face, it will feel good. But you wouldn't be doing anyone any favors. That would hurt if someone did that to you. So I think with anything in the entire creative process is building a team, and it can seem impossible sometimes, but talk through it. Yeah.
Thank you. Mo, do you work with a strategy team?
Yeah, you could say that. In some ways, I've almost kind of like become a strategist in a weird way, because like I've been client side now for 3 years. And I remember, like, on the agency side, I'd be like, y'all don't get it. What is that? But I've heard it a few times tonight. We all want the same thing and we all just want to win. So when I am on the other side playing the creative strategist slash creative director or whatever, I know that I have the goals that the company has in mind when I'm trying to set the agency partner up to succeed. So yeah, it's almost like I've just learned that everyone wants the same thing. And then when they, mute me and are saying a lot of stuff, I'm like, oh, I know what's happening on that side. I've been on both sides, So yeah.
Cool. So what advice do you guys have for creatives who are entering the industry? A lot of our guests are, making their first steps into the industry. Do you have any advice that you can share with them, Lisa?
Yeah, I think, again, just asking questions as an intern or as you start like your entry-level job, it is so important. And I was totally that person that was like, I used to be extremely, extremely shy and like very socially awkward. And I just did not want to ask a question. I think Jack was kind of touching on it. Like, you just don't want to sound dumb, or you don't want to like annoy someone or act like, oh, like, they're going to think I'm stupid if I have to ask a question. But just quickly learn that like, just ask questions. Like if you're confused about something, hit up the senior designer, hit up your manager, and they are going to be more than happy to answer any question for you. And I'm actually mentoring an intern right now at my job. And that was the first thing I wanted to establish with her was just like, hey, like, it's really scary going into like your first internship or your first job because you just don't really know what it's like, and just trying to make her feel comfortable and trying to just let her know, like, you can come to me with any questions, like no matter how small or even big ones or even, you know, whatever, I'm more than happy to answer and help guide you. So I think that's just a really great place to start is be curious and yeah, just be open to learning and asking questions. And
Thank you. Yeah, asking questions is really important. Jack, what do you think some of our kids who are entering the business should be looking out for?
Yeah, I actually just did the same thing as Lisa. Just took on 2 interns, and in the interview process, I just asked them like, "What do you want out of this?" And I think if you can, like, try and establish with whoever your mentor is or the person that you're dealing with is like, this is what I want out of this. Like, it's a 2-way street, you know, like you're there to learn. You are going to have to grind. Like, it's just a fact of life. You're going to have to do some shit work. You have to learn how to resize banners. You're going to have to learn how to repurpose creative, lots of stock image searches. But the reality is, like, you're building up skills that, like, even like all of us still have to do those things. So, you know, you're going to have to grind, but then also just keep in mind that you still want to learn stuff and you want to get specific things out of specific places. So this kid said to me the other day, he was like, I want to know what the production process is. Like, I want to know how it comes together. So now I know to put him in certain meetings and where to, like, what to help him with and what better to understand. So hopefully you have someone as awesome as any of us. If you don't, just try and like reach out to other people as well. You know, like, you can just do your day-to-day with the person that is shitty, and then just reach out to other people and be like, hey, you're really cool and I want to know this. So and yes, stock images are the pain of existence. Yes, I have like carpal tunnel from it, like, you know, just scrolling like all day.
And Mo, do you have anything to add to this?
Yeah, all of these are great, by the way. I need to get my pen and paper. I would say when it comes to being an intern, and this is a quote from Brian Collins, one of my favorite designers that I, you know, totally have been watching his journey. He says, I had to look for it. A good designer will help a company get where they want to go, and a great designer will push a company to where they should go. So when you are creating, when you are doing those banners, do it, but do it in stride. Do it in stride, but also find other problems to solve for them. You know, get them, you know, a design treatment, get them a new color palette, even though they don't ask for it. It is all about those people that always push the envelope and don't feel that you can't do that as an intern. If I didn't do that, I definitely wouldn't have got my way in, because I remember my internship wasn't hiring. If they're not hiring, people are going to remember who you are. This is the smallest big industry, biggest small industry ever. So go in, push the envelope, and create problems. Not create problems in a bad way, but find problems and then solve them. Martin Luther King didn't wait for a brief. He had a dream. You know.
Good one, yeah. Kristin, I'm going to switch this over. What is the one thing you wish you knew before getting into advertising?
I think it's the same answer I would have given you if you had asked me what I would tell interns.
All right.
Take notes. Oh my God, take notes. Like, all of the time, take notes. Even if you're in a one-on-one and it's casual, take notes. Because not only will it help you in your executions and picking up in conversations where you left off and help you be more efficient, but it can really save your ass too. You know, especially when it comes to feedback. A lot of times people will give feedback that contradicts itself. And it's really nice to just have that in meeting notes and not even have to like call anyone out. just be like, oh, okay, cool, that's already there for me. And I think documentation is just really important as we navigate corporate spaces. Yeah, because it's very much a fast-paced environment. So nobody can remember everything. Don't pretend you can. Take this from like an ex-waitress.
Yeah.
Don't go to the table without a notebook.
Thank you. Yeah, I believe in that, those notes, taking those notes, because like you said, not everybody has the best memories. When things come back, you can just refer to your notepad. We're going to start opening up the floor for questions. If people want to put some questions in the chat box, or if Kenny wants to turn off their mics, we can do it either way.
Just ask away, people.
Yes. Just say, put your name in the chat box, and then we'll turn off your mic if you have a question.
I have a question.
Okay, oh, there you go.
Hi, everyone. My name's Kylie. I'm one of the art directors for Building Beats, but my question is for Jack. You talked earlier about your project that you had pitched to Getty, but I'm just wondering, when you have a project like that that has more purpose beyond just advertising something, how do you bounce back when somebody says no? And how do you keep pushing a project like that forward?
Good question.
That's a really good question. I think I'm going to take half, and then I'm going to give it to Mo as well, because I know that he's had a lot of experience there too. I can tell you very specifically, it's hard because it's hard to maintain momentum, because for the most part, you're doing this on your own time. So that particular project I had back when I was at JWT, and it was like on the cusp of when I went to Rolex. So I was kind of working in the agency and had all these touch points with all these different people in the agency, but then got very siloed on Rolex. And so once I got no from Getty, I got distracted, and then it kind of left, and I guess like the wind just got taken out of my sails. So then it really is just up to you to kind of pick yourself up and be like, fuck that, this is a good idea. I don't give a shit. I'll take it somewhere else. Like, and you know, I think there is a period of like, do I need to change it? And you can maybe have that back and forth. But if they're like, we're just not interested, it's like, cool, great, thank you, move on, go to the next one, and just kind of have your own, this is your project, you know, and if it means something to you and it's special and it deserves the attention, which I do think it does, keep at it, but also just be careful of like, I guess like who you give it to too. You know, like I'm very open with you guys, but like I wouldn't just like start preaching this to everybody, because I think you lose the idea. People start watering it down, and you know, you need to find the right people. But I want to hand it to Mo, because I know he has more experience.
Nice, that's a good one. Yeah, I would say sometimes that's a blessing in disguise. There's a saying that good ideas don't die, they take a nap. The project that is living proof of that, and Kenny knows, when we were at JWT, I was pitching this idea, and look it up when you get a chance. It's now called the unsafety check, but it wouldn't have been the unsafety check if I didn't have this problem. When I wasn't at Facebook at the time, we pitched it to Facebook and we were so excited about it. They're like, this idea is great. We don't want anything to do with it. And we were so bummed, and we were so like, oh, we were so close. We know this is great. But it actually caused us to hustle a little more and make it become a standalone app. And I got to be honest, I don't think it would have been as successful if Facebook had decided to work with us. So use it as a blessing in disguise. You know, like Rockefeller happened back in the day because Jay-Z could not get a deal. And that's now what he's known for. And you're seeing people like Steve Stout talking about owning your masters. There's quite a possibility that it's a blessing in disguise. So you just got to keep it moving.
Next, does anyone else have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. Hi, I'm Lynn, and thank you all for being here tonight. So I've been told between in-house and agency, if you're starting in the industry, choose an agency, don't go in-house. And since a couple of you are working in-house, I was wondering what you thought of like the sentiment, and do you think for someone coming into the industry, there are as many opportunities to grow creatively in-house when you're constantly working on a specific brand as there are in a creative agency?
I could answer this. I think that there's always time for agency life. I also think you can learn a lot from being on the client side that will keep you from burning out in an agency and keep your sanity at an agency. I've gotten a taste of agency life and I love the benefits, but I like the benefits of a brand better. So I think I think that's the difference. I think you can and for me and Lisa being in tech, I think that it all depends on what your area of focus is in. If you're unsure of what your niche is going to be and you're not like, I want to focus on tech specifically, or I want to focus on another area, I think that it makes sense to, kind of do agency life so that you can kind of put your hand in all the different pots. But like I said, I didn't start at, I started an agency that I didn't go back to it full-time ever. You have to pay me a lot of money to get me back at an agency. So that's my take, but I'm curious to, others at agencies may disagree with me.
No, not at all. Take me client side, please.
I would say starting out at an agency though, and not knowing the client side, you do enjoy the agency work a lot more. So I would say if you are very thirsty for learning fast and you're down to work really hard and kind of pull, overtime, starting at an agency could be a really good opportunity because it's just so fast paced. And like I was saying earlier, my skills just like really exploded during even just like a year and a half at an agency. And not to say that they like are stagnant at being on the client side. I have very different problems to solve and different projects. It's still a very, very, very good learning experience, but I will say like it's true that once you kind of go to the client side, you have all the benefits and better pay. It's hard to leave. It's hard to leave. So I would say if you want to get that agency experience, like and you have the opportunity, I would say go for it when you're still fresh and young and not bitter. So.
Also consider as well, like if you want to build your book, agency is the way to go because you're going to work on a whole bunch of different brands. You're going to do it really quick. You are going to have a lot of different people that you have to work with. You're going to learn a whole lot. But I guess like as you get a little bit older, you start to look at, client side as like, that could be almost regular hours. But fundamental difference, which I think is interesting, is like advertising is client services. So you're always dealing with someone that you have to like please in a way, like they're the client. Whereas like in-house, you are the client. And so you have a different way of speaking and a different way of, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, I actually haven't been in-house, but like just from my own experience of like working with brands together, you're always kind of, there is this like almost like hospitality element to advertising, which I think as you go further up, you get more aware of, and it can be a little bit frustrating, but, and to Lisa's point, like my skills just went from like 0 to 100 in my first 2 weeks. Like I was doing shit that I didn't know how to do 2 weeks ago. Like, and you just Google it. You're like, oh fuck, how do I do that? Yeah, I can do that.
I think the client side also there is a little bit of power there. Depending on where you work, you might have you get to review other work. So there is experience you can get and see from like how agencies work on that side. But you know, on the agency side, there's a lot of sacrifices that you have to make, and sometimes it feels like it's your baby that they're tearing apart and telling you it's not funny. And on the client side, a lot of the times I have to remind people and be like, yo, this ain't my life work. You know, this is just an email. Like, I'm not stressing it. You want to change a word, I'll change a word. Like, I'm working for you here. So I think that it's just a different frame of mind. And I think that there were times in my life where I was really hungry and I needed that agency experience. But I'm 37, I'm tired. So I'm gonna chill and let Jack carry that torch at the agency side.
Mate, no, I was about to call you and be like, hey, so what's going on at Tinder? You got any jobs?
I would say for that, just find a creative director that you look after and just go wherever they're going. To me, it doesn't matter if it's health, client side, non-client side, like find your Jack, find your Kristin, find your Lisa, and just learn from them. Even on the client side, I gotta say, like, if you do go there first, you can find these people that in the advertising industry that were rock stars. You know, my mentor, even right now, I don't mind calling him a mentor even at this age. He's on the client side, and funny, crazy story. We gave the design elements to a agency, I won't say who, and they totally dropped the ball on everything. The design was uninspiring, everything was bad. Tommy, he ended up designing and like creating like all the motion graphics for the whole, what a whole company would do in one night. And he is the client. So it really doesn't sort of matter. You just find these rock stars and just start learning from them. And I believe you can start anywhere.
I think we have time for one more question. Anyone?
Yeah, hi, I'll go. My name's Hadas. I'm actually one of the creatives on the team. I kind of wanted to know, just like getting the ball rolling, like creative ideas, like what's your go-to? Like, how do you start? Kind of like, I don't know, like things that inspire you, or like to start the juices flowing, kind of.
Yes, I dig it. Can I get this one?
Yes.
You start now. Just kidding. I didn't mean to make it that dramatic. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it really starts now with all these conversations that we're having, conversations that, you eavesdrop when you're walking. Creativity is a decision. And when you do decide that, the world becomes your library. So get it from anywhere and everywhere. And what's so beautiful about that is I don't have your insights. So you may have this bang on idea, or this design direction based on how you get to work. So like, I can't think like you, and that's beautiful. So I would say that's where you start.
I like that, dude. If you're, Hadas, if you're talking as well about like a specific, like if you get like, make this ad, don't be scared to like, listen to how they presented the work to you and like what you're doing. Look through the brief for like keywords, and then Google. And like I think Kristin said it earlier, like the troll of like going through Reddit and finding a way through Pinterest and hitting up Instagram and like all those things. But if you have some keywords that you're kind of letting lead you and guide you, you're going to find something dope. And like for me, my creative process, I think I'm really good at putting two ideas together that are completely disparate and like colliding them and then seeing what happens. And I think that's just what I'm good at. So I know that I'll go on this kind of obscure troll and I'll be like, hey, you know what? Potatoes and cats, that kind of works. And if we do this, and then you kind of end up in this weird place, and then you just keep going. And like, I was actually talking to my grandma about this. She's a writer and she's 86. And she said something really beautiful to me the other day. I was like, how do you like keep inspired and stuff? And she was like, well, I just sit down and I write and I watch what happens. And I was just like, fuck, that's like, That's cool. You know, it's just like this idea that you just go and like, as long as you're just there and you can just kind of keep going. So I don't think there's like an answer. I think, but don't be afraid to just like troll and get inspired. Like it depends, but like Wired is a really good one for me. Or
Thank you.
Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing.
Mhm.
I also think to your grandmother's point, there's this phrase that someone told me, I think right when I was starting out writing in like junior high, and they said writers don't do, they write. And I was like, what does that mean? All my life I've been like, I don't know what that means. I have no idea what that means. And then I realized that it meant that when I'm writing, I'm not editing, I'm not critiquing, I'm just writing and I'm seeing what happens. But I also think that another place that creativity comes from is just your own experience and your own perspective. I think that you are always part of the audience, and don't discredit that too, that you're part of the core of what you're selling most of the time. Yeah, but I also find that there's a lot of inspiration to be had in just writing itself.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Real last thing is just everyone brought up such wonderful points, but never be afraid to just pull in a coworker, even your friend or someone to just help you brainstorm, whether if it's like a personal project or what have you. I find it really gets the creative juices going, and if you're hitting a wall, just having someone else's perspective come in can really be helpful.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna do this. Everyone is scared of a blank page. I am still scared of a blank page. Every single time I sit down and someone's like, here's your ad, even now, I'm like, fuck, I don't know what to do. I am like freaked out by this, whether it's like the biggest ad in the world or a tiny little banner that no one's ever gonna see. Every single time I sit down, I'm like, oh shit. But you just learn to have the confidence that eventually you'll get there. And it is like literally sometimes just throwing shit on the page, like,
Thank you for that. Just start is what you're saying. I want to thank you all for coming tonight and sharing. I mean, this is an amazing panel. I want to tell our gifts to connect with you guys on LinkedIn or wherever you guys are located. Check out their website. It was amazing. Thank you so much. And I hope to see you guys soon.
thanks so much for having us.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Have a great night.
If anyone wants like portfolio reviews or anything like that, just get my email from Kenny. Happy to do it. You know, just let me know.
Likewise on that.
No doubt.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. I told y'all this was a family affair tonight, and it was a whole lot of fire. Needless to say. I mean, I've worked with pretty much everybody, you know, on this panel today. So that was kind of like my thinking and even putting together tonight's Sunnyside chat. So Kristin, Lisa, Coach Jack, King Mo, you already know, I appreciate y'all more than words can say. And, you know, there's no better group of people than the 2021 gifts to really share your knowledge with. So once again, I appreciate y'all for spending a little bit of time with us. I know y'all are really busy doing big things as always. And you know, these are the people that I surround myself with. I mean, they're way smarter than I am, way better looking than I am. But you know, like that's how that's how I'm able to do the things I do, because I have the support system of such great people. So once again, thank y'all, love y'all to death. Let's roll into this creative presentation. So creative team, y'all ready?
We're ready.